I didn't realize that was one of the learnings for me, that I was kind of also very hovering over him at times. And so learning that I just needed to take a step back too and just allow him to sort of be. And so the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I feel like with Mindful Beginnings, like we're starting the foundation now to allow parents to just be more emotionally open or available, so that that doesn't hopefully happen to future generations.
Maybe especially when we talk about discipline and boundaries, to be able to think about not just boundaries that you teach your child, but boundaries that you teach other adults in your life.
Yeah.
Welcome to Look for the Helpers, a podcast by Engage Therapy in Agora Hills, California. Hosted by Adelina Brisbois, licensed marriage and family therapist, and her husband, Dr. Blake Brisbois, licensed psychologist. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, that's okay. Okay. Hi, I'm Peggy. I am the Director of Parent Services at Engage. And welcome, Janet.
Thank you.
And it's good to have you. Really, it's good to see you because I haven't seen you in a few weeks.
No, it's good to see you.
It really is. And I want to be able to talk about both of our experiences doing Mindful Beginnings, but from different perspectives. So for me, being a facilitator of the group and you being a big participant in the group and your child. So maybe we can start with what it was like for you to be there for the 10 weeks.
So it was a really beautiful experience. It was really eye-opening because I'm also a therapist, so I feel like I know a lot. And then doing the 10 weeks, I realized I don't know a lot as much as I thought.
But maybe it's because you're there as a mom.
Correct.
Not
yeah,
as
I
a
don't
therapist.
exactly.
Yeah.
I don't have my therapist hat on as much. So I just kind of realized doing the 10 weeks, just a lot of the things that maybe I wasn't aware of about myself as a parent, and I wasn't always thinking about the generational stuff that was happening, like with my own parents and how they parented and how that kind of translated into parenting with my son. So I just felt like it was incredibly eye-opening. I learned so much about myself and certain gaps in my experience. And then it was just also beautiful just to have my son in the program and like watch him interact with the other kids in the program. So it was lovely.
So how do you think he changed over time?
I think so. I learned in the program that he's a slow to warm temperament, you know, and I felt like I already had that feeling about him, but it was helpful to really go over that and translate it. And I think he changed because he was always, and still, I guess, is to some degree, like very, very cautious and very like wants to be very, very close to mom frequently. And so as the program progressed, I just saw him gain a little bit more independence. Like he was comfortable being on the other side of the room, not always clinging to me. So that was also really fun to watch too.
Yeah, and I think from a facilitator perspective, watching you be able to stand back and let him separate, even though y'all were in the same space, and then to watch him learn how to interact with the other children in the group and the other adults in the group.
Yeah.
But he would check back, but could go and really wanted to go on his own.
Yeah.
And you could support that because then you were supported, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. It was, I didn't realize that was one of the learnings for me, that I was kind of also very hovering over him at times. And so learning that I just needed to take a step back too and just allow him to sort of be. And, you know, if he was clumsy in a moment, that's okay. I could support him thereafter. Or if he needed to work out, you know, toy sharing with a child, like let them work it out for a moment and see how it goes.
And how he could move from like object to object. But I think about his favorite object in the room, the crib,
Yes.
the little playpen with the babies in it, and his fascination and interest. And he could go explore that on his own. So you both grew
Yes.
in that space.
Yes.
What did you think about the curriculum?
I really enjoyed it. I loved how it was broken down. I love that each week we've sort of focused on a topic and an area that, we needed to maybe think about a little bit more deeply. We had homework, just to consider throughout the week. So I really enjoyed it. I felt like it was a really good pace.
So how has it been since the class has ended and, you're out in the world without the class now?
Yeah. So I feel like for me, I still think about the class and I still take the learnings from the class. Like, for example, I know I talked about this in the class, but for whatever reason, just like playing with my son was very challenging for me. Just doing that free play, I was so shocked that that was one of my experiences because I thought I would be like very natural at that. So now at home, like when I'm done with work, when it's just the two of us, I really try to be in his world and do that free play with him. I try to have like all my distractions away, like phone and stuff like that. And so I try to be mindful of the free play. And then also one of the other things that I know you helped us hone in on was just validating our kids' frustrations and not just moving in and fixing it. Like that was another big takeaway for me. So anytime he gets frustrated, I just try to validate, like, honey, I see that you're upset right now. I see that, I put you in the high chair and you didn't like that. So I really try to continue and incorporate that.
That's nice. And that's part of the program is that it's 10 weeks, but then you internalize it and then take those things with you along the way, which is really nice.
Yeah.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Do you notice it in your relationship at all, being able to use some of the reflective practices?
When you say relationship, you mean
with your partner?
With my partner.
With
Yeah. I feel like we talk about it quite a bit more. Like yesterday, I was out of the house and my husband sent like a video of them playing together, and I gave my husband feedback because I was like,
good.
I don't know if I like that. And I explained, my reasoning for whatever it was that was going on. And so I feel like we just sort of talk about it. And I even bring up his temperament a lot with my husband. We talk about it because we like to go out and we go to different places and different settings with our son. And he's not necessarily like the other temperament is feisty. We
Right.
talked about where like they're just free and they can be in new environments. So I talk about that a lot with my husband too, like how we want to be supportive of him in different settings with different people. So yeah, I feel like it's just a constant conversation.
That's good.
Yeah.
Because then you have taken it with you and you can use it in like all places in your life, in relationships, which is beautiful.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
it's really good.
Yeah.
Very good. Do you have any thoughts about anything that should be different in the program since it was the first time we've done that program?
Gosh, for the parents?
Yeah, or just, in the setting.
I don't know. I have to really think about that one. I guess for me, because what my specialty as a therapist is trauma. I do a lot of trauma work. That includes attachment trauma. So I feel like maybe a lot of those conversations came up with myself and some of the other participants.
Members.
Yeah, so maybe even just a discussion around like the attachment trauma piece, I guess, because I think a lot of us in the program were really trying to be not only mindful but break certain cycles.
Right.
So
Patterns, behavior.
Exactly. So I feel like maybe even just talking about like the trauma component. I don't know if that could be helpful or not.
Well, yeah, because it's part of attachment. So then if you think about how attachment shows up in trauma, it's a good idea to include it, thank you, in the curriculum. Yeah. And everybody did talk about that.
Everybody did. Yes.
Throughout their life.
Totally. I can recall so many conversations. Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you would want either Jessica and I to know about facilitating the program? And if there's anything that we could do better as facilitators?
I think you all did great, actually. And actually, one thing that I wanted to point out, and maybe this can be like an additional topic or discussion, but I also think another outcome of the Mindful Beginnings 10 weeks for me is that I've also set more boundaries with my parents. You know,
Good job.
yeah. And
That's
I
good.
think not only just boundaries with our son, but just boundaries between my dynamic with them, you know, and just things that I've realized that I've tolerated that I don't want to tolerate anymore. So that was another like really, I would say, powerful outcome for me. And so I don't know if that could be like a discussion to have, you know, in future Mindful Beginnings cohorts.
Yeah, like being able to how you set boundaries as an adult with parents, especially because we're talking about multi-generational,
Yeah.
you know, results of attachment. Oh, it's not, yeah. Maybe especially when we talk about discipline and boundaries, to be able to think about not just boundaries that you teach your child, but boundaries that you teach other adults in your life.
Yeah.
Oh, good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything else that you would like for me to know?
I mean, just positive things. Like it was such a safe space for me and our son, and it's just really sweet. I'm still kind of grieving the ending of it.
I know. I was going to say Tuesdays aren't the same.
They're not the same, yeah. And I was even mentioning, you know, when it ended, that I also would love to do a cohort again at some point, maybe in a few months. I don't know, just because it was powerful, and I'm sure I can get continued learning from just repeating the course too.
Well, and I think the more I've taught it for a long time, but that I always learn something different every class that I teach. So I think it's true.
Yeah.
And we miss y'all.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for talking about Mindful Beginnings.
Thank you.
It's good to see you and good to talk with you.
Yeah, you too.
Anyway, I'm really excited to talk with you formally today, even though we're always talking, about our experience together in Mindful Beginnings. So that's the program that we have here at Engage for new parents, and it's based off of reflective parenting, which is a 10-week course that is really embedded in attachment theory. And so this is really exciting for us because it's a new way to do what we're already doing, which is reflective parenting, but with parents of little ones. So walking to about 2 years old. And it's really different because we get to bring our little ones with us. So I'm really excited to talk with you because we got to do a cohort together. And I think it was really amazing. And, you know, I've been around reflective parenting, which is the base curriculum, for a decade now. I've taught it. I've been trained by Peggy. I did it at schools. I've done it at other sites. We do it at Engage with our programs. And I've seen transformations in front of my eyes. So I believe in the curriculum wholeheartedly. But to be a participant was completely different. And to your point, I know we've talked about this before, I was just shocked at how much I didn't know, even though I know the curriculum and I'm a therapist, I work with kids. I know that I don't know everything, but I didn't realize how much I didn't know about myself is the part that shocked me. And then being able to, bring your baby and your partner. I was lucky enough that my partner was able to join me in it, and how much we learned about each other during the time and how that reflects as parents of the same kid. So I guess I just wanted to reflect a little bit with you about, I guess being a parent and being a therapist and how that showed up in the course for us. And then also, if we can, maybe we take our therapist hats off for a minute and just be the moms. Because I met you before this cohort. We've done other mom things together. And it's always been so nice to just have a base, someone that's, for me, safe and familiar. So, I guess I'd love to hear from you.
I think I want to answer that question, but I want to actually speak to your point about meeting you before we did Mindful Beginnings. So we did like Mommy and Me classes. And those were nice. They were really lovely. It was a beautiful space, I felt like, for the kids and my son. But when I reflect on my experience in Mommy and Me classes and just different Mommy and Me programs out there, I kind of always felt like something was missing. Like we would talk a lot about our babies and just the different milestones they're working on and things like that. But I feel like the mom experience kind of got lost at times. And we would never necessarily really go deep and dive into how is mom feeling about all this? How is mom doing just in general with like this like crazy life change that just happened? You know, like I feel like a lot of the programs we were in like just mainly focused on kids and their milestones. And so when I did the program with you, the Mindful Beginnings program, it was such a breath of fresh air because I felt like it was reversed. Like we weren't talking necessarily about their milestones. We were talking about our milestones moving into parenthood and like attachment and all the different things that were going on. So it was just so amazing because I really appreciate going deep. And I know not everybody does.
That's true.
But it was really impactful for me to be able to just talk about my experience in that new motherhood phase and the different parenting things going on, because I just didn't necessarily feel like I had a space to really talk about it before this.
Oh my gosh, you said it so well. That's true.
Yeah.
And you know what else? I'm remembering. I'm thinking back to, it was like summer, I think, when we started the excuse me, the Mommy and Me class, and I remember feeling like I had to get ready and like, I don't know, present myself well because I felt like that's what the world and society gives us. Like, okay, you just had this baby and no big deal. Just get right back on and live your life and be on time and look great at, you know, like nothing happened. And meanwhile, you're not sleeping, you're struggling, you're going through this whole emotional change, not just physically, but emotionally too. And you're right. It was so awesome to do these different classes that we did together. And the focus, even if the focus is on us a little bit, it's not going deep. And I think what you and I probably were craving and what we got in Mindful Beginnings was not just what's going on now, but actually thinking about what has happened before that brings us to now, right? And, you know, I know your specialty is trauma, and you mentioned how, you know, there's different types of trauma. There's big T, little t traumas. So sometimes we can know what our blind spots are when they're big T's. Right. Like, okay, I had this huge major thing, and so we've done the work maybe in our own therapy. Great, fine. Not fine. Those are difficult things, but I just feel like those are taken care of sometimes. Yeah. But it's the little T's that show up when you have a new baby because we are depleted. Sometimes our partners are also doing their best and depleted in their own way. And this poor baby just needs us. Yes. And so what I think happened for me in this 10 weeks was it shone the light on the little T's that I think I've been dealing with my whole life and kind of, I don't want to say masking, but maybe like, what's the better word? Like just like white knuckling through it and not even naming it as any kind of trauma, you know? Yeah. But then this course, I think, really makes you slow down. Yeah. And I don't do that very well.
I don't think a lot of moms do that very well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And before you're a mom, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what those things are that are going to come up. But then we're in it. It's live and it's happening. And, you know, like, I think I'm blessed. I have a lot of support. And I still felt like so alone. Yeah. You know? Me too. Yeah. So, it's that's why I think it's important to have other moms that, like, when you would share, I remember when you would share, I would be like, oh, well, that gives me not only so much insight on, I didn't even know that's how I was feeling, but Janet just said this thing and it relates. I relate to it. Yeah. And then there was another person in our cohort that when she would speak, I felt like I understood my partner better. Like she would speak and it just reminded me of, I'm like, I think that's what Blake feels like. But for some reason, when she said it, I could hear it differently than if he says that to me. Because, I don't know, she's like a fellow mom. And so she's going through that. It just feels more normal.
Right.
And it made me feel a little bit more patient with him, Blake, and also with my kids.
Yeah. I agree with that. I felt the exact same way when certain things were presented by the other moms. It did make me think about my husband's experience. And he's actually said to me, I don't know if a lot of like society or people talk about what dads go through after having a baby. So we've had some of those conversations. But I totally agree, like I talked about with Peggy, right? Like that 1 week where I realized like I don't sit down and play with my baby. And, she very thoughtfully always asks us, where do you think that comes from? And that's likely my childhood, right? Like I don't remember my parents ever really playing with me. I had to sort of play and have my own imagination myself. And so it made me think like, was that maybe one of those like little like attachment, little T traumas that I went through that I had to like sort of learn how to play by myself?
Right.
So I agree with you. I really felt like it forced us to slow down and look at some of the like little nuanced things that maybe we didn't realize before the course or even before having our babies.
Yeah, and the reason I think it's so cool to have this opportunity now is because we do work with teenagers in our program, right? At Engage, and it's teenagers, preteens, young adults that they're not doing well. They're like more severe mental health in terms of their symptoms and stuff. And I think, could we maybe prevent some of that by supporting parents now? And look, if I can see what my blind spots are, and if I can be a better parent, perhaps that will help my kids have more skills to be more preventative of the hardcore challenges that are inevitable, right? Like adolescence is just hard.
Yes.
And we're not there yet. Our kids aren't there yet. But if we can give them a strong base, then I do have hope that we can have a better generation, when they get there.
Absolutely.
Let's hope.
Yes.
We'll talk in 10 years and see. But
yes.
I can't imagine. My only thing is that I hope I don't forget all this stuff. And so you mentioned you wanted to do the course again. And the thing is, I've never been a participant, but I've done it so many times. It's just, I learn something different every time.
Yeah.
Because it's about reflecting on your own experience. Someone asked me, because the name reflective parenting, am I just gonna have to reflect everything that my kid says to me? And it's so not that, right? It's about actually us reflecting on, why is this bothering me so much?
Yes.
Like one thing that happened to me, I don't know if you remember, but I had an epiphany too when Peggy asked me a question. I don't remember the exact question, but it was, I think it was about anger maybe, or it was about, I don't remember what the subject was that week, but my daughter and I get in these like kind of, it's not like a screaming match. I guess it's kind of a screaming match, but we get escalated, both of us. And 1 week I realized that escalated state triggers me. And I turn into like the little girl that's being yelled at. And then I don't behave like an adult because I feel like someone's yelling at me. Yeah. And so once I realized that her yelling was a trigger for me, it changed. Yeah. And now she yells, and instead of me getting triggered, I'm like, oh yeah, see, this is her having an experience. This is not about you. And so I like yesterday, I picked her up from school and she's like yelling at me for no reason. And normally I would be like, you can't yell at me, because I wasn't allowed to yell at my parents. Forget about it. I'd be in trouble if I talked to my parents like she was talking to me. But I was able to stay calm, and I was able to recognize like she had a bad day. Something happened. Like she's not yelling at me because I did anything.
Right.
And so I stayed calm and I gave her some love, and she turned it around.
That's amazing.
Like just like that. And I'm driving, to our dentist appointment, and I'm thinking, that felt like magic. It's not magic.
Yeah.
I did something different, but it felt like magic because she
was.
just stopped. She just,
You gave her what she needed in that moment. Yeah.
yeah, it was so simple.
Yeah.
And I think that's my hope, right? Is that when parents do this class, they can apply it to other situations. Like she's 7, she wasn't the one in Mindful Beginnings,
Right.
but it wasn't about her. It was about me.
Yeah.
Me getting triggered.
And I have a similar kind of epiphany specifically about anger, because I know we did, I don't even think 1 week, maybe 2 weeks on anger where we were talking about it. And in my childhood experience, and I think many people might relate, I wasn't allowed to be angry. I
Yes.
was not allowed to misbehave. I had to be like very disciplined and focused. And of course, I've learned through the course that it was just because my parents could not tolerate or know how to manage anger. They had probably their own poor role models for anger. And so with my son Tino, like same thing. He would get frustrated or whine, because he's not fully talking yet. And that would just trigger me. I'd be like, what is happening? Like, why is he angry? I just need to go and fix it.
Right.
And so now I do my best to just allow him to have his whiny moments, feel frustrated and angry, and do my best to validate. And I want to say, and I don't know if you've noticed this, I don't even want to call it a trend because it's not a trend, but like on social media right now, there's a lot of talk on like young adults or adults being now estranged from their parents.
Yes, I've seen this.
Yes. Because they're making these decisions to
Yeah.
now be estranged.
Yeah.
It's not a trend. I don't like that people are calling it a trend, but I think, there's more awareness on some of those like little T traumas that
Right.
you talked about where a lot of, our maybe generation of parents, they were emotionally immature. They were not, capable of, let's say, validating or providing the emotional, intentional support. So the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I feel like with Mindful Beginnings, like we're starting the foundation now to allow parents to just be more emotionally open or available so that that doesn't hopefully happen to future generations.
So it doesn't keep going.
Yes. Yes.
You know what else I think? For me at least, I think it also helps because you know how you said our parents maybe didn't have the tools.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of reasons they may not have had the tools. Culture is maybe one piece. I know in my family it is, and what I love about the curriculum is that it's actually across cultures. It's been empirically valid across cultures. So that gives me a sense of, because a lot of times growing up, I would have this feeling of like, oh yeah, that's great for everyone else, but that doesn't apply to me because my parents are not from here. So it doesn't apply. But I would say, and I think that's why I'm so obsessed with this curriculum, is that it does apply. And I've done it with parents from all over the world that are immigrants and not from here and really don't have a sense of mental health as like something we talk about.
Yeah.
And yet they still are able to apply these things. So number one. Number two is this epiphany I had that the limitations that our parents had could also be from their own trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, whoa, for me, that was a huge piece that it's not always a choice. We don't always make a choice to be disengaged from connection. Yeah. Oftentimes it's a response from trauma, unresolved trauma, or maybe just like the amount of trauma, the acuity of it is like human nature to just separate, Yeah. So that was a big piece for me to realize and to hold and to have empathy for that, and that's the other piece. We're not judging. And that's what I love about how it's all presented. I never felt like my upbringing was judged or like there was something bad about it. It just is. It just was. And I am here today with whatever that was, and you and everyone else in the group. But then our kids, same thing. They're going to be our age and they're going to be able to identify things that we did that worked and didn't work.
Right.
And I think that I hope for our society that there's a way that we can all just have room for that.
Totally.
And say, look, everyone was doing the best with what they had, whatever that means, whether it's because that's how they were taught, or that's what society told them, or culture, or religion, or trauma, like lived experiences. Because I think that the world would be a kinder place if we could do that.
Yeah. And I also want to say, I just feel like it's never too late. You
Yeah.
know, like even if your kids are older or even if your kids are adult kids,
Right.
I don't know. I don't feel like it's ever too late to be able to make that change. I was
I agree.
watching a video last night again with this whole, common theme that's happening right now with people being estranged. A lot of, I would say, adult children are remaining estranged is because their parents aren't being curious.
Aren't doing the work.
Right. They're not being self-reflective and they're not being curious about their adult child's experience. And that was what we were doing. We were just being curious about our own parenting, our own childhoods, right? If you can just be curious, like lean into that a little bit more, that will absolutely, in my opinion, start to hopefully shift things for people.
Yeah, because then just like how we give our kids like my example in the car yesterday, right? Me giving my daughter the benefit of the doubt just shifted how defensive she had to be, right? Okay, she's 7, but if I'm an adult, if anybody approaches me that way, gives me the benefit of the doubt, I'm gonna be warmer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be softer.
Yeah.
And so, to your point, it's never too late. And well, that's what we know about attachment. Actually, that's one of the things that attachment research has very consistently and for a long time shown, that it is never too late. And repairs, there's a rupture and there's a repair. And that has been empirically also supported, that that can really shift someone's safety in the world and feeling like they're okay, they belong.
Yeah.
So you're right, it is never too late. And actually, one thing that came out of all this is that Peggy is going to start a grandparent support group for this reason.
Amazing.
Because we're finding that there are some grandparents that are very interested in having a better relationship with their whether it's their grown kids or their grandkids or both. Sometimes that comes together. If you have a good relationship with your kids, oftentimes you have a better relationship with your grandchildren. Yeah. And she's a grandma, so she feels strongly about that. So that's one thing. And then actually because of you and you're pointing out about the dads really needing support, dads are welcome to come to Mindful Beginnings, not just dads or moms, just partners in general. That's how we built it, because we know that when two people are raising a child, then if they're on the same page, it's going to be smoother, right? But what you pointed out, and I think what kind of came out organically throughout the group, was that dads have a different struggle than maybe we do. And there's also parents that are, like 2 moms and 2 dads. And it's not necessarily that it's a mom's struggle and a dad's struggle, but maybe a primary caregiver and, the person who's not the primary caregiver. And sometimes if there's 2 primary caregivers, there's other things that would come up, right? So just basically being able to support all the people that need the support in that important time. So that's another thing that we hope to do, is to offer a dad group.
Yeah.
And also what came up was maybe it would be more comfortable, because I can't speak for Blake, but he was, I think, the only dad in this cohort. And, I think it might feel more comfortable if you're not worried that you're going to upset or offend someone in the group.
Sure.
So that's another piece that, excuse me, that we're hoping to work on. Okay. I think the other piece that I would like to hear your opinions on, because when I'm talking to people about Mindful Beginnings, it's really hard to explain.
Sure.
Because there's nothing like it.
Sure.
And so I can't compare it to something. But now that you've done it, maybe you can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So the way that I've described it, I've said to people, like, look, this is not your run-of-the-mill parenting class. I think in standard parenting classes, you learn skills and then you're encouraged to implement those skills and tools with your child, which is great.
Totally great. Those
which
are
is
great.
which is great. But I think personally, what's missing about that is sometimes we don't ask the parent, how do you feel about that skill? Or is that skill going to work for you? Or did you ever get that skill, being raised in your family of origin, right? And so the way that I talk about the classes, I say it's about looking at how your parents parented you, which then impacts how you parent your child.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is a reflection component. You do think about your childhood with discipline. You do think about, how your parents processed anger with you. You think about play. Did your parents play with you? So again, you're not just like with anger, for example, you're not just taught how to manage anger when your child is angry. You're taught about, well, how do you feel about anger? How was anger processed with you? Were you allowed to feel angry growing up? And so how does it feel for you to now implement, like, let's say, validating your child when your child is feeling angry? So I just tell people that it's like, it's double, right? Like you learn the skill, but you also learn about yourself and you learn about gaps within yourself. I don't know if that's a helpful way to explain it.
It is. And I'm thinking about my own experience right now as a participant. And, the facilitators never told us what to do. And I think that's refreshing because I think as a new parent, you're constantly getting advice, do this, don't do that, do it this way. Oh, I did it like this. Everyone likes to tell you about how they did their thing. And they mean it well. And sometimes it is helpful, right? But in this setting, I'm thinking I was never told what to do. I was always asked what I think. So to your point. And you can take that with you when you think about what's going on for you. It can apply to different situations, right? Like the example I gave about my daughter getting in the car. Eventually, she was able to say to me, Mama, I had a bad day. And I had already figured that out. But the fact that she said it almost validated, like, okay, you're going on the right direction here.
Yes.
But like there was an example, I don't know if you remember, one week, Peggy asked about like a distressing thing that happened. And that day I had a really hard time getting my baby in the car seat.
Yes, I remember.
Yeah, I remember. And I came in, I was like in a bad mood about it. Like I was frustrated because it wasn't about the car seat. It was about everything that led up to that. And I was going to be late and And then she didn't tell me what to do, but she asked me a series of questions that made me think. And I remember walking down the stairs of this office and saying to him, okay, we're going to get in the car seat now. And when we get to the car, we're going to get in your car seat and I can put you in the seat or you could put yourself in the seat. And he looked at me like he understood, which that's another thing. I don't think people understand how much kids understand.
Yes.
But that was one moment where I realized, okay, I think he just registered what I said.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure. So we get to the car. I'm like, okay. And I repeated it. You can go in or I can put you in. And he put himself in the seat.
Amazing.
And first of all, I didn't know he could do that. I actually didn't know he had the ability to do that.
Yeah.
And he let me buckle him in. And that's another time where I felt like, this is magic.
Yes.
This is magic.
I have a similar example.
You do?
Yeah.
What was your?
I think one of the weeks where we were talking about like a perpetual problem, I think we were having like sleep trouble.
Oh yes,
with my kid. And he's normally actually a very decent sleeper, but for whatever reason, we were having a tough week.
He was waking up in the middle of the night.
Something was happening or he wouldn't fall asleep.
Yes,
I think that was the issue. So I remember Peggy had taught us about just explain to your child like what's going on, like what is the plan for, let's say, that afternoon or evening. And I just remember like what I was trying to do for Tino, he just wasn't going to sleep. He was getting antsy. And so one night I said to him, Tino, it's time for sleep. Mama's going to put your pajamas on you. We're going to read a story. You'll have your milk, and then Mama's going to put you in the crib, and you're going to go to sleep. Like, I literally just narrated everything.
Oh, my God, this does feel like magic.
Yes. And so we had our routine, like we did our regular routine. And then I said, okay, it's time for sleep. You're safe. Mama's right outside the door. If you're crying, I'm going to come back in. And so I literally like laid him in his crib and it was silent. And within maybe like, I checked the camera, within maybe like 10 minutes, he like soothed himself to sleep. I was like,
Wow.
oh my gosh, I just had to explain like what we were doing for the evening.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people listening might be thinking like, this is a 1-year-old. He doesn't understand what you're saying. And I don't know, maybe they don't understand fully,
Mm-hmm.
but it works.
But I think they understand energy.
And tone.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
I think they understand like the emotion behind maybe the words that
I
we're
agree.
saying. Yeah.
I agree. And you know what? Maybe they understand more words than we think.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they can't respond. Because now my son is able to like say yeah or nod.
Mm-hmm.
And we're shocked at how much he can correctly respond to what he like, do you want this or this? You know, and he'll go like this, and that's the one he wants.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it comes back to giving kids more credit than I think most people give.
Yeah.
And again, slowing down enough and also empowering the parent to
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, you can figure this out.
Mm-hmm.
Again, nobody told you, you weren't given that script,
Right.
right? And no one told me exactly what to do. But I got so confident because I realized I figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
I did something by myself. It was just me and him, and it worked.
Yeah.
And then it kind of built. And I was like, okay, I can do this next time something happened a little difficult. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I got this.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we practice, the more we get strong. And kids feel that too,
Mm-hmm.
right? They feel our sense of it's containing
Totally.
when the parent knows what they're doing,
Totally.
quote unquote. We don't know what we're
Well-
doing, but we're trying, and we think we
Yeah.
in that moment can feel like you're safe
Yeah.
in my hands.
Mm-hmm. Well, I was going to say, like, even in moments where I don't know what's going on, like he might be crying and
right,
like I have
right.
no idea what's happening. I remember Peggy's words. She would say, just validate the experience. Like, let him know that you see that he's distressed. And so I remember there was one moment where he was like, I don't know if it was a tantrum or he was just very uncomfortable. And I just remember holding him as he was screaming and saying, you know, I really see that you're distressed, hon. I'm here for you. We'll figure this out together. I'm going to hold you and see what happens. And then after just like a few minutes, he totally calmed down and we figured out what was going on. He had gas, you know?
Yeah.
But just even a reminder, like, even if you don't know what's happening in the moment, if you can just narrate and do your best to stay regulated, that you don't have to have everything figured out
Exactly.
in that moment, that was also just a very helpful tool.
Same. Because it is back to not judging, right? Mom guilt is real,
Mhm.
and I judge myself anyways, right? So if we can not add anything to that, and maybe even the practice of taking some of that out of our internal dialogue, I think there's so much strength in that. And another thing that comes up, I think a lot of people think, well, it's just that I just have a baby. That there's no problems. Like, why would I do a parenting class? You know?
I've heard that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I actually really get the logic behind that, except for I think it's missing. That's why I think explaining this course is so important, because it's missing this whole layer of it's actually not about like necessarily parenting. It's more about taking care of the parent.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
and it's like at the airplane, in an airplane, you know, you put the oxygen mask on yourself before, and it's so counterintuitive.
Right.
Like everything about that feels wrong.
Right.
But when you think about it for 2 seconds, you're like, well, yeah, if I'm passed out, I'm not helping anyone.
Right.
And I think it's very similar in this way, that it's not actually about the kids.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, the kids in our group varied a little bit. I mean, it was like mostly 1-year-olds. There was one person that I think had just turned 2.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see like everyone was in a different stage of
Mhm.
development, and yet it worked because it wasn't so much about them
Mm-hmm.
as it was about us with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's another piece that was really cool to watch, again, as a participant.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think originally, you know, if the kids are older, we were thinking about having more time separate with the kids. But for our cohort, since they were younger, we had them with us the whole time. But it was fascinating to see the change in the kids over the course of the weeks and how much more comfortable they got.
Yeah.
And Peggy says, well, it's because the parents got more comfortable,
Mm-hmm.
which I can totally see.
Mm-hmm. But I also want to say, like, there's a funny week that I think I remember Peggy reminded us about that we reflected on. We were talking about a heavy topic.
Oh, yeah.
Anger, right?
Yeah, it was at the end. We were all,
And I just remember all the kids were on the other side of the room.
Yeah, and she pointed that out.
She pointed that out.
Not only that, they were also coming apart a little bit.
Yes.
More than
like,
usual.
And like the room was a mess. Like they were
Yeah.
throwing things everywhere.
Right.
So it just, I don't know, it just speaks to the fact that they feel energy.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's survival. They're supposed to. They have to.
Mhm.
That's like
Mhm.
how for years and years and years, right?
Yeah.
If there's danger, I need to know that
I need to feel it.
you're my litmus of what's going on
Yeah.
as my caregiver.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's the whole point of attachment,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is that it's a secure attachment, you feel safe in the world. It's
Mhm.
not a secure attachment, you don't feel safe in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's really that simple.
Mm-hmm.
And yet it's so complicated.
Mm-hmm. For
Because
sure.
what is safe,
For sure.
we can be stressed about something that is really illegitimate in terms of the kid's safety.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you for just talking through this with me. I feel like even just as we've been sitting here talking, it's been very helpful for me to think about not only as a participant in this, but also, a future facilitator and really helping to get the word across to our community.
Yeah.
I think selfishly, my hope is that, my peers, the people that I'm raising my kids with, will take part in this so that we can all kind of work together as our kids are growing up and speak the same language. And, my idealistic view of it is that if my kids' friends have parents who are reflective, then, he's going to grow up or they're going to grow up in a better environment.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's idealistic, I know, but do your part,
Mhm. Yeah, I agree.
Cool, thank you. Is there anything else that you would like to share with us about you? Because you do so much in our community, and part of this podcast is also highlighting, the helpers that are in our community. So while we're coming together today to talk about our mutual experience in this group,
Mhm.
there's so much you offer our community and by way of therapy that
Mhm.
I'd love if you could share with us a little bit about that too.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I mentioned I specialize in trauma. And so, yeah, it's not just, the big T, like, physical or sexual assault. Of course, I work with that. But I have to say, I noticed that I do work with a lot of adults that had or have still emotionally immature parents where that experience still impacts them. It still impacts how they feel, how they show up in the world, their current relationships, their parenting, and I feel very passionate about this work. And, of course, I want to support people in working through that. But I think why I'm bringing that up is because I just feel like if we support people earlier on in working through that, your adult children might not be there.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel passionate about supporting adult clients. I have several therapists on my team as well. So we also work with teens and couples. We all offer EMDR, brain spotting, specifically for that, more of that intensive trauma work. EMDR also changed my life.
That's
personally.
another one that I feel like is like people have compared it to magic. Like it's just like unbelievable how much it works.
I have to share this story, and I hope it's helpful for people. But when I started my personal therapy
Mhm.
journey, I was in grad school at the time. And I remember my grad school did not speak favorably
What?
about
Really?
EMDR. It was weird.
Because it was new.
Maybe because it was new, maybe because it wasn't as researched as it is today.
Mhm.
And I remember the therapist that I was working with, she's an EMDR therapist, and consistently recommended EMDR to me.
And you're
And
like,
I
this is pushy stuff.
and I declined it. I was like, EMDR, that's woo woo. What do you mean you move eyes back and forth and like you're gonna get better? What are you talking about? Like I
It
was
gets too
so
simple, right? It's too good to be true.
too good to be true. And I was like, this is just weird. I'm not into weird stuff like that. And my grad school was very evidence based, like CBT and all the cognitive interventions. And I worked with my therapist for a year, but I wasn't feeling better. And she finally like challenged me a little bit and said like, Janet, just try it. What do you have to lose?
Right.
Like if you don't like
Especially
it,
because she did it.
yeah,
You
if
didn't
you
have
don't
to do anything.
exactly, if you don't like it, we don't have to do it again. And so we did the EMDR session and like it was powerful, it was magical. I felt so different after the session the next day.
Wow.
Yes, I cannot even explain it. And I then continued EMDR for like a year to work through my own stuff. And then of course that, inspired me to become an EMDR
Of
therapist.
course, because
It was so
you have a
life-changing.
lived experience of it.
Yeah. And so I feel like I'm a person where I try to work through my own stuff so that I can be there for my clients. So I love, again, what the participation of Mindful Beginnings, because now I feel so much more equipped to work with moms, to work with parents, to even with, adult children, right? Because now I feel like I can better share maybe what was missing for them. So I just feel like, anything that I offer in my practice, I really try to work on myself personally too.
Yeah, and you also, I know, are into IFS, right? And
Yeah.
that's all related too.
Yeah.
The different parts. Maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So IFS, internal family systems, the idea behind it is, we all have multiplicity of parts, different parts to ourselves that show up in different arenas. So for example, like here, you guys are seeing my mom part, you're seeing my clinician part. And so I love IFS because sometimes we have different parts that show up in our lives that maybe we're not even aware of or conscious of. Like you were saying, in moments when you're triggered with your daughter.
Right. I become like the little girl
Exactly.
as opposed to being the mom that's in charge.
Exactly. Yeah. So I love IFS because it helps clients, and even for me personally, I realize when maybe my inner child is coming forward, right? And usually that happens because it's a trauma response, it's a trigger, it's an experience that's unresolved that, is brought forth to our attention. Right. So I really love IFS too because it forces you to also reflect and be aware of the different areas that are showing up in your life.
I don't know if this was your experience, but for me in grad school, I remember learning all the different modalities and one day having this moment of, they're all kind of similar, even though they're different. All the modalities have these themes that are really, it's just the language that speaks to how we get there. But EMDR, I do think is unique because it seems more physical than theory, But like the IFS stuff, it sounds very similar to Gestalt work, like the different parts of yourself. And that's something that we're trained in. And so it makes sense, and then somatic work and how I had a therapist that was a somatically trained therapist by Peter Levine. And same thing. I was like resistant. And then one day I did it and I was like, I don't know what about this worked, but it worked. Like it changed. I was afraid. I have like a fear of like animals being like close to me. And when I got married to Blake, he had a cat and the cat came with him. And so I struggled a little bit. And she was like, come on, let's do the, the somatic work. And guess what? It helped.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting even just listening to both of our stories. And maybe this is why we get along so well, because I think I relate to you. There's like this, like a healthy stubbornness.
Yeah.
I say healthy because I think it's gotten me through life. This like strength of like, no, I'm not going to be convinced.
Yeah.
But then this theme of when we just loosen up a little, we actually learn and then benefit and how nice that is.
Yes, totally.
So I think, I've said this to you before, but I love being on this journey with you as a mom, but also in our community as a therapist. Because I think what's so cool about our here, Conejo Valley, is that we really, I think, support each other. Like, I think clinicians are supportive and back each other up and hold each other up. I don't experience it as competitive or cutthroat.
Yeah.
I think, we offer, even if we don't offer something different, if we offer the same thing, there's a lot of people that need all of our help.
Yes.
And you might be a better fit for some than like, let's say me or the next person.
Yeah.
So also insurance, like you guys take insurance, which I think is a really big deal because it gives access to care.
Yeah.
So I really, like I said, I'm glad to know you as a person, but also as a clinician. And thank you for the work that you do. Such important work you work with adults, right? Mostly. You don't, do you see adolescents?
I work with adults, but I have a team that works with adolescents.
Okay. So there's people on your team that can see the younger ones. I see. I didn't even know that. I'm glad we talked about it.
Yeah.
I just always knew that you worked with adults because you work with adults.
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. Okay, thank you.